So, there is a song that became our theme song for this group that was going on. Okay, and we played it there. We played it every time we got together. We went over and over again. Did it over and over again. And this song, get a little bit. I'm gonna get to it. You're saying it. Get the characters and just. That the marriage conference you did? I'm sorry? Is that the marriage conference? Yeah. So anyway, that was our theme song every time we got together as a group beforehand, and we played it and we're listening to it the whole time, and you saw how excited these people and said, you know what, I got nothing on the people in Kenya, the Christians in Kenya, and they worship. I'm sorry, it is just beyond.
So I was telling somebody that they're very unapologetic about it, and we keep our faith under wraps sometimes. We're careful about what we say and who we say it in front of, and over there,
it was very, very refreshing. Got to a point, and I'm not a big rock and roll fan. I'm not even this song, I'm kind of like, I'm so about it. I just don't like that loud music, and that's what they had the whole thing. And it was, but they were so, and then they would, when they would do a quiet worship song, it was like the spirit of God had been there the whole time. But at that point, I could actually recognize it. And it was so precious. So anyway, just as a kind of, this exciting and everything as this was, like, that's nothing compared to what they do every Sunday. Their gratefulness, their thankfulness is just it's beyond description. So this is the need. Okay, I'm not sure where these kids were. I don't think they were in. I know they're not in the schools. Are not in uniform. I don't think they were at the orphanage because I don't recognize this building structure here. Somebody on the team got this shot of these kids with one of their main toys. Okay, and I know. I mean, if you look at what they've got here, I recognize this now. We took a lot of candy with us, sweeties, and kids along the road, where they were just falling out the window to them. And these kids somewhere got a hold of some of the candy, and that's what they're eating. For some of them, it'd be like the first time they ever had like that. So, but that's the need, because these kids don't have access to clean water. And here's the thing. Here's the statistic that I heard there, and I'm not. I didn't get a chance to ask the guy who said it. I don't know what he said. I think we got one of the pastors there. But if you can supply clean, fresh water, 60% of the family's problems goes away. Okay, because now they're not sick anymore. They're not traveling miles and spending hours just getting dirty water. They're not going to the hospital as much. They're not going to the doctor as much. So their finances improve. Their time management for students can study, they can focus because they're not sick. There's a whole list of things that get better with clean water. And that's the need. And so we went to, basically we went it was almost like a victory tour, because we went to a lot of the wells and we dedicated those wells. They were already in use, but we dedicated the wells and everybody was excited to see the people who provided the wells. Our sister Beth is a goddess there. She's the water goddess. I mean, they love her and they showed her so much honor, showed all of us so much honor. It was amazing. But they showed her so much honor, and they should. And then she's so humble and heartbroken over, and it just was neat to see. But anyway, that's the need. So we get there and we drive from Kisumu to Kakamega. This is our other van up here. We have two vans. I think that's the other van. The bikes there, they're called Piki Pikis. They don't have the big motorcycles we have here. These are maybe 150cc. Does that sound right? They're a smaller bike, and they're all over the place. They are a mode of transportation. People have them personally, but usually you have a Piki Pikis because you're making money with it, because you're hauling people with it, and you're hauling.
Do they have winters over there?
They don't.
They don't.
They don't. They don't.
That's the
You're almost right on the equator.
They do have a lot of rain. This is a traffic circle, which they don't have stop signs and that kind of stuff. They have traffic circles. This is a traffic circle in yeah, yeah, it's the bigger has the right of way. There is no right of way. I mean, here's the thing: no accidents, some really close calls, but it's just like, you know, everybody drives the same, so they all kind of know, you know, if I get my nose in first, I've got the right of way. That's, you know, it's the bus coming right on in, and then he's got to turn left, and so that was a traffic circle. Those were very interesting. Some of them were downright scary. This is another road off the side. I was on a trip. I had been teaching at the Mayor's House, so one guy got me in a sedan and took me to where the rest of the team was while Rick took over teaching for the afternoon.
What kind of car were you driving there?
This was a Toyota. A lot of Toyotas in there.
Corolla or something?
No, something else. Corolla. It's a dirt road, but even on the dirt roads, they have speed bumps. But you see, you drive on the left side of the road, people walking, the guy on the bicycle, there's a Piki, the motorcycle. This thing up here is called a tuk-tuk. It's a three-wheel vehicle. They're all over the place. They have these taxis and trucks. They don't go very fast. But then there's a speed bump. You got to slow down and then up over the speed bump.
Well, at least nobody's going very fast.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Don't go very fast. Their top speed is 80 kilometers, which is like 52 miles an hour or something like that. They have speed bumps everywhere. Even on the highways, you go to a certain point and comes up to an intersection. There's rumble strips and then a speed bump, so you don't go through the intersection fast. So it's that's the kind of driving that they do. I went through the traffic circle and I saw how they did that. I went through a couple of them and I thought, you know what? Shoot, these people drive like I do. There's just a lot more of them, and there's just a lot more, and there's just, you know, no lines on the road. So every once in a while you get a larger road that have lines on it. But generally you stay toward your side, but you got to the bikes on the far left, and you know, and you got to drive around. I didn't get a view.
It's like a big flea market.
Oh, that was we were actually driving right through a major market area there. So anyhow, the driving was just a little nuts. And the Piki Pikis get used for a lot of things. This guy's carrying chain link fence on it, and a guy. We saw a guy driving down. I don't think I have a picture. And we saw a guy driving down the road with 20-foot lengths of PVC pipe. Okay, and he had it cocked a little bit, so he's driving all the way over the left side like this, and so 10 foot is hanging over the edge of the road here, and the other 10 foot's hanging. No one could go over. He had to pass him. He couldn't get off any farther off the side of the road than what he was, and you would have had to have passed him or go his speed. And they don't go real fast, especially up the hills. if they got a load like that. So anyhow, they carried all sorts of things. The couch, there was one guy we're just driving down. He's got a love seat on the back of his pinky, and I'm going, is that just for extra seating on it or what? He was delivering a sofa. And this was the best thing we saw. Look at that. And she's alive. That's a 250, 300 pound sow on the back of that piece.
Taking bacon home.
Well, that's close to home for you, isn't it?
It was blinking. And here's the thing, my daughter's going, Dad, look at the pig, and I'm looking for something on the ground on the hook, and stuff like that. And we were passing someone else's picture, we were past it before I realized that that's on the peaky.
Oh, my goodness.
And you know, and there was was she dead? Well, no, someone said she was blinking, and I saw her twitch her ears, and I'm going, they have got her trustled up there and laid on there, and she's just riding along. And if you see his bike, you see she's a little off balance, his bike is lean to make up for the fact that she's a little off center there.
It takes a while to
be in the hand.
Yeah, so, and when he's pulling off in this video, he's pulling off the road, and you'll see, he's pulling into a gas station. Get gas and the beaky before he goes any further. It's like, oh my word.
How do you even get the pig on there?
I don't know. Now, we did see a guy, we saw a guy driving, the driver had a guy sitting behind him, between him, they had two goats trussed up like that. So anyway, that was just amazing, some of the things that they carried.
So they've got DoorDash there too, huh?
Actually, they actually did. We were in a restaurant, I think this is in Nairobi, that we did, and they had a version of DoorDash, so they were advertising, get your stuff delivered on a weekly. But yeah, it was very interesting. At our hotel, I don't have any pictures of the hotel, but outside the hotel is a courtyard, and they had tents up, and this is where we had breakfast every morning. And so we got together, had breakfast, had some prayer time, usually had a devotion. And so they just had a table outside, and their kitchen area was over here. And well, depending when we got down there, some of the guys were early risers, we'd get down there early, and you know, they'd have coffee for us, and not coffee like you're thinking coffee. Their coffee is hot milk they would pour you a cup of hot milk, and then you put one packet of instant coffee in it. So it's basically hot milk, flavored hot milk with it. So I had it once, and they did it with tea also. And then we found out that they had hot cocoa there. My daughter's son says,
"Oh yeah,
hot milk, and we'll take the cocoa." And we started having cocoa instead, because the hot
did you have cell service at the hotel?
We had Wi-Fi, somewhat sketchy Wi-Fi, like right here outside the hotel. No, nothing. Some people had cell service. I didn't, so we were relying on the Wi-Fi. So we had to, in the evenings, we would call mom, and we were able to do WhatsApp, do a kind of a FaceTime thing with her and I. And Ed would, as soon as we got on, he'd call Connie and be on the phone with her for half an hour or something. So anyway, I don't think I may have a picture of the whole team. This girl back here became another daughter to me. She is Julius Pastor, Bishop Julius is the guy that is the main contact on the ground, and she's one of his assistants. And she and my daughters were riding together a lot, and they just connected really well. And she was just really sweet. You guys know Rick Hudnall? Probably most of you know Rick.
What's his last name?
Hudnall, Rick Hudnall, here from Church on Fire. He's doing one of the cohort classes on Monday nights. He'll start that this week. Ed used to come to Church on Fire. He and Connie. Ambrosia, we met her here at Church on Fire. Actually, I did pre-marriage counseling with her and her husband. And then she took her daughter along, who I think you see a picture of one. This guy's a youth pastor at the other church. This is another friend, another guy from that church. And I think this guy here is, yeah, that is Mark. He is Julius's son. He's his other assistant, so he's still Julius's assistant with everything he does. He needs, and they're both really, really good. This is the poster they made up about the Miracle Crusade we were going to do, and that's just standing next to it. This was on I think on the side of the church there where we did it. All right. This is before And actually, guys, this is toned down. This part is, at this point, they're tired. This makes me somewhere there. So much as you want. Much air into this. It was raining this day, so not really, actually not very many people came, because it was raining. At one point, it just poured down rain. And
Probably dries up pretty quick.
they didn't, no, you'll see, that's not what it is. They didn't stop this kind of stuff when it rained. They did. Now, at one point, when it just really started pouring down, everyone had it stuff. At that time, I was soaked already, so I just stayed out in the rain because I was already wet. And I was just like, you know what, these guys are already dancing right now. I'm not gonna go hide under a tent. So we got to Nairobi. The pastor from Trinity Church got a phone call when he got the place where we had service. And so we'd flown to JFK, and then we flew 14 hours to Nairobi. He got this phone call and some things had gone on, and he had to turn around and go back. So he flew out of Nairobi, another 14 hours back that day. He and his assistant that was with us, they flew back. But what that meant was that he was supposed to preach the crusade, the Sunday morning service, and do a pastor's conference after I did the mayor's conference. Wednesday, I did the mayor's conference on Tuesday. I was supposed to do it on Tuesday. He did it on was supposed to do a pastor's conference on Wednesday, and then Rick Hubman was teaching on the end of the age Wednesday afternoon. He goes back. So they look at me and say, well, you're doing they look at me on Friday and say, you're doing the crusade.
Next up.
Where's my notes?
Well, yeah, that's just it. So I ended up, they went and did some stuff Saturday morning, and I stayed at the hotel just to try to prepare for this. Not gonna be but it was they danced, they sang, and these guys, some of these guys, this guy is pretty sweet. Just got to know him a little bit. He went there in his full suit, 3-piece suit, and then stayed in it for a couple of times. So anyhow, so that was kind of, I talked about them, you know, their dancing and stuff like that. It was just nonstop. And then we did the crusade. You can see I'm soaked. This is Bishop Julius, who's interpreting for me. And they had this rickety stage up there. And I'm standing the way I'm standing for a couple of reasons. One, I was making sure I was standing on the actual metal supports that were underneath the boards. So I looked at the boards, I'm going, if I step forward into this place, I'm going right through. So I got up and I stood right there. But the other thing is, the reason I'm standing straddle-legged like that is because I'm standing there next to Julius, and I grabbed the hold of him like that. So I was explaining to him that, okay, there's a hog in the yard, like right there where we were, just behind the building right there where we were. And I'd seen the hog, and you knew you had to be careful where you're stepping. And so I did, so I told him, I've seen the hog, and walking around there. I said, you know what? I grew up on a farm. That makes me feel at home. And then I stood up I was up on this, and I grabbed Julius's arm, so we just, and I shook the whole thing. Because, you know, I'm a little heavier than most of the people that got up there. And I shook the whole thing. I said, you know, this is like riding a hay wagon. I said,
You're a little wrinkled there. Is that because you were wet?
yeah,
I'm
drenched to this thing here, because it has been raining very hard. It let up a little bit.
It didn't bother your hair.
No, it didn't miss my hair.
And he kept his suit on during the rain.
And I did not have a suit on. Yeah, oh yeah, he had his suit on, and he was so. And a lot of the pastors, I mean, they're always dressed to the T, and some of them are better dressed than I've ever been in my life. So anyway, that was just preaching at the crusade. People said it was good. I'm going, yeah, I'm not, because it was the first time I'd worked with an interpreter, and I didn't feel like I really kept my train of thought very well. And because I was in it, once I got up there, I realized, okay, I'm not preaching to a lot of unsaved people. This is mostly just the church that's here. So it was.
What you preach on?
The Spirit will convict the world of sin and righteousness and judgment. And so it just, and I didn't have my notes because it was still raining, and I didn't have my daughter bringing my Kindle, so that's, and so I didn't take it very well, but everyone else said, yeah, it was fine. And there was a response at the end, but that was no big deal. So Saturday morning while I was studying, they went to this place, and this is Beth actually starting digging for a well. And then everybody on these wells.
These guys.
Just that much, okay? But the cool part was, and the whole rest of the team took turns, you know, so that they had kind of a little divot made by the time, they got done. And then the team took over the digs wells, they took over and dug a well right now. This is right behind, the house that they were giving to Martha now. I mean, back up just a little bit. Martha is a widow who, traveling, working, walking toward water, had been raped 3 different times. She has 2 children of her own, and she has adopted 4 others. She's raising 6 kids, and she was in an apartment, and the guy kicked her out. She had nowhere, so she's got these kids, so she's just kind of living somewhere, and she's actually a really amazing woman of God, and she starts to preach. It's like, well, there's the Spirit of the Lord here. I mean, she just was amazing. Beth had met her before. Baba had kind of explained this, and so what happened was that Beth, through Abraham's blessings, arranged to build her a house. Did not tell her that they were building this house, and this is in the backyard of her house, and in a neighborhood that needed a well, so they're putting a well in her backyard for her and for the neighborhood. She would travel miles to get water, and that's it. It was just a really. So that's kind of, so they started this well. That's Saturday. This is Tuesday, I think. This is Monday. And so they have this rig set up, and see this bucket? They lower that down to the guy in there, he fills it with dirt, they pull it up, and they dump it out of the way. And they lower it back down, and he gets to rest as long as it takes them to, well, actually, he's not even resting, because all they're doing, they just stand with it, where it's guy down now. This well, he's down a little.
5 bars.
Yeah.
5 bars. Here he is, they toss him a bottle of water, he's taking to see how far he is there. See the holes here? That's so he can climb out.
Step ladder.
Okay, so he just kind of makes holes in the side as he goes down. Keeps on digging. There it is with water. Now, you see this ring right here?
Yeah.
That was a layer of rock that they chiseled.
Layer of rocks.
A layer of rock, not rocks, a rock that they chiseled through it. I'm not sure how thick it was. It wasn't as thick as some of the other big rocks I saw on the bedrock there, but they got to that point, and that's probably 12, 15 feet down. They chisel through that and go down another. I think they went down, I thought they said 35 to 40 feet. You know, over that side, you got water. Once water starts seeping in from the side, they keep on digging. And now that, then so you see this bucket's full of water and mud, and they're hauling up water and mud to get, and see how tight that, I mean, how tight that rope is pulling. And so water, and see how small he is down there. And okay,
How long does it take to get that done? Get that done?
that was Tuesday. That was Wednesday. Saturday to Wednesday. They had water.
And sometimes they don't
Well,
hit
no,
water.
Saturday, Tuesday, actually Tuesday they had water. Sometimes they don't get water.
Sometimes they dig down, they hit bedrock and they get nothing, can't get far.
Wow.
So anyway, with these guys, this team that does this, they have a heart for the Lord, and they have a heart for helping people, and they know how important it is what it is they're doing, and they get on it, and they rotate through. This is a different guy that you saw in the other one. They rotate through, and when I was there, before they got to this point, I actually helped crank up a couple of buckets of the mud just to see what that was like. It's like to get water. It's that important to them. So anyhow, that's the well. So they had the well finished and ready when we gave the house to Martha. The other way they dig wells is with the drilling rig. Costs twice as much or more, $7,000 to do it like this. So this is a truck that hauls the stuff. This is the one that here's the drilling rig. This is at the orphanage. Because they were drilling a well at the orphanage. I think they had done one before, but they were drilling. Near the entrance to the orphanage. This is the entrance here, so they're drilling it there so that people can come in from the neighborhood and get water and stuff. So, So anyhow, so they were drilling there. This is, Saturday. It's at the height of big stuff. Here's the rig. This guy running at the back, or running at the whole time. Hydraulic turning, and they got hair that they blow in. That's how they get the dirt, a lot of the dirt out. They blow it out with that. That's got all the hydraulics are going to go to you're not going to get across the time. This big here at the bottom of the fury, he traveled with it pretty much the whole week, and he's working on another document. So that's how that started.
What if they hit rock with one of those?
They drill a little harder.
Yeah.
So here's what happens, because this orphanage is built up on a hill, and it's actually built on the bedrock. Okay, because the bedrock is just up near the surface and up on the little, so just from Bob where this other picture was taken. Yeah, here, this is bedrock here. All right, so they're standing there. So right behind this, 100 feet away from, or more from where they're drilling, there's a fence. I couldn't think to get a picture of this, but when they were drilling through the bedrock, the fence was knocked down because it was sitting on them. They basically just kind of put it on there, and the whole fence fell down. And I asked Oscar, who was the manager of the orphanage, and he's also Baba's son. I asked him, I said, so did you feel it in the building? He said, yeah, the buildings were shaking as they were going through the rock. So anyhow, they drilled down. I want to stay with 100 and something feet. I don't remember exactly the number. It was, I don't think it was a start. They actually tried to drill there before and never got water. Here. There are some of them who were standing too close, as you can tell, and it was everyone just kind of turned and ran. I think that was my daughter's video of it, because that was her voice when she screamed.
Sometimes the water goes up, sometimes it goes sideways, right?
Well, if you go back here, when it starts to blow apart, it starts to hit this part of the truck here, and then bounces out. It goes up here. So yeah, some of them were just soaked. I happened to be, I was at a break and taking a break in the mayor's conference, came up, and I saw that the whole team was there. My daughters had come in and the whole team was there. And Laura said, they basically called us and said, we're about to hit water here. So they hopped over there so they could see it happen. And I was standing when that happened. I walked up behind Laura, and I'm standing between the trucks here. And Laura is right behind this stuff between the trucks. I'm back out. And so I saw this from the back side of it, and it was amazing. The rush of the water, and then the immediate joy from the people all around our team and the people all around, just praising God that that his orphanage was going to have this new source of water. So anyhow, that was amazing.
So continue praying for hearts to be touched in our country, so that we can continue to help you and build many more wells.
So this was Sunday. This platform I was standing on was right in front of us. They had removed everything, the platform, the tent, and everything from that area. This is in the back of the church that we had that stuff on, and they dug a well there. And I don't remember who actually paid for the well. It usually tells you, but I didn't have a picture signed. But Beth was just telling them, look, this is an answer to your prayers. So continue to pray that God would move on people to do this, and basically saying it's because you guys pray that this stuff is happening, and God, because of God's faithfulness. So she was dedicating that well, and then went to other wells. A lot of other different people dedicated the wells, and so we visited 12 different schools, I think, and 11 different, maybe 12 different wells. It was pretty amazing. So Sunday, it also rained a lot. And this is after the feeding, we've done a feeding program it's after the church service. We did a feeding program. We're just kind of staying out here, and I'm in this little group over here. And there's a bunch of kids here, and then they started making. This is actually standing in the doorway where they started making balloons, and so the kids all kind of migrated out. And as it started to rain, the harder they ran across to the church building, which is like right over here. Oh, see these chairs here? A guy left the church service after it was over and everything was kind of done. He left the church with 22 chairs stacked on the back of his feet.
No.
Like he started in, he was at about 15 when I realized what he was doing. I was to walk around the corner of the building and saw him, and I counted him. And he was kind of looking around. I said, I remember he said looking for 2 more. He had 20 at that point. He kept on adding. So he's looking for 22 of them that they brought from another church to help with the services. They had more that they needed. And so he was taking them back to the church on the back of his feet. So anyway, so this tent was there, and you see it's kind of sagging here. The rain was collecting. You see it's kind of we pushed it up over the edge a couple times and stuff like that. And the middle here between the two boats was just collecting water and collecting water and collecting water. And it wasn't something you could push up to get out of it. So anyhow, a little bit later, this is the tent. The kids were all gone out of here. And we were still there when it came in, and we were actually, I think if we were praying, a joker was facing this direction. He saw the tent start to sway, and he looked up and he said, "This tent's coming down." And there was a couple little kids in there still with us, and we turned, and you know, Tanya was in there, Joker's wife, Mama Bear, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so he turned and pushed her out. But he and Rick and I and the little girl I was with were still under the tent when it came down. And this pole here, you look here, see the sheep? That comes in later, but that sheep was tied to this pole here. That pole only bent about halfway, went down about halfway down. So in this picture, it had collapsed all the way, but it stopped short of that. And I knew, hey, there's no poles here. If it comes down, I can just stand there and be okay. Joker was trying to get out. He was really bruised. Rick got bruised. All the kids got out. The little girl I was with, I pulled her back and let it come down, and then it stopped there. And then I was able to, because then they just started to panic. And I pushed her out into the rain, and then I was able to crawl out. So that sheep was still tied there. And so I'm standing a little later from about this angle. I'm going to begin to stick from that corner door there. I'm standing there, and the sheep was still under the tent because it was dry there. And the sheep kind of went, and it's kind of looked around, and then she walked outside the tent, and then it collapsed the rest of the way. So she must have seen or felt through the rope that it was moving again. She moved out of the way, and she was standing out in the way. This was after we some of the cleanup. It was just, you could see where the tent was. The whole pole just collapsed over there. The weight was in the middle. So anyway, that was Sunday. Sunday was the last day. We were supposed to do the village evangelism, and it washed it out because we didn't have, it was too wet. But the church presented all of us with gifts, handcrafted gifts of some sort. But then they presented Beth with a sheep. And it was so touching, and just in a wonderful way. I'm sorry.
Try taking that home.
Well, that was really but we did. So
we're up on the sheet, and then you took it out and tied it to the tent. But like that priority last time.
This is really sedate worship that they're doing. This is.
They actually rode in a van with you or something at one point.
I'm sorry. Yeah, well, that's what they did, because you had to take the gift with you. So they loaded it in the van. I wasn't in that van. They loaded in the van in the back with Beth and Grant. Grant's the youth pastor that went with us, And so there's pictures out there of those two in the back with this sheep. And then we took it to the hotel and tied it to a tent post there. And kept it at the hotel. And they would just move it, they would stake it and move it to a different place in the yard there, so it was fine. The funny part was that they brought a male sheep, in because they were gonna butcher him. And so we think that we may have given Mata a pregnant sheep, which would be cool for her. Because what they were doing is we're gonna give this to Martha, or Mata Kuhlman, when we give her a house, we give her the sheep too. So that's what they did. So in the meantime, the sheep stayed at the hotel.
Martha, is she the one that, the Clearman boy?
Yes, exactly. Yes, and that actually, the day that we gave her the house, Dave was in Los Angeles, meeting with the producers and people and having a big meeting with them, and that went really well, but now he's got to go back and do some more. But they want pictures of the house and all that kind of stuff. Another 20 minutes and do another 20 minutes of film. And then, hopefully in January, the documentary will come out. They are hoping to have a trailer for it at the fundraiser in November. So anyhow, that's who this sheep went to. This is the feeding program outside. See, it's sunny. Feeding program, we got all this kind of stuff, and then the rain came, and so we fed all of these kids and the whole church. Two different tables where they could walk by and get a spoonful of rice, a spoonful of some broth and maybe some meat, and a little bit of cabbage stuff. But they were so thankful to have it. And we fed 250 people, I think they said was the best estimate they had of the number of people that we fed. This is the tent that we were, that's the church back there. This is actually a church that Abraham's Blessings built. There's a plaque on the side dedicating it to with Beth's name on it, and but it was a church that Abraham's Blessings helped build. So this was the first time that we've been there since that had been built too, so they dedicated the church to it. But very thankful people. During all this stuff, Ed over here is pointing at my screen. Ed over here is making balloons and stuff for the kids to do stuff. And use some Joker here. So anyway, this is going each one of the schools. This is the kind of research you can got.
Wear uniforms, huh?
Yeah. This must have been the second school, because this would have been something that we got to receive at the first school. So they would come in and then you would meet. And they would appreciate the ground, they would see and sign around and stuff. Then this is like. It's like the PTA. But the mothers at the school that came in appreciation, because they knew what the well of the school was doing for the rest of their families, for the community. So a lot of times the community leaders would be there. The PTA was almost, the PTA president was almost always there. Whoever their board of management was, they would do that. And just a lot of celebration.
So many smiles.
Yeah. So here we are, vision school, and we're walking with the tourists. To where the well is at the school, which is down between these other two buildings. And the kids are just, there was a group of them with drums and stuff that were kind of playing, and they were just shouting and excited. I shared with some of them, did you see their hair here? The girls, so most of them have their hair cut short, and it's just basically fight the lice problem, but the boys are all clean cut, and their hair is so tight, and Myra's so this head of hair is a really anomaly, that's Beth. My daughters have hair down their backs. And they, Laura, I'm sure it was Laura or Deborah, one of them let their hair down, they had it up in the front, kind of because it was hot, they let their hair down, so it's just, Deborah hates to have people touch her head. If you really want to get smacked, you walk up and just put your finger on her hair and move a little bit, so she feels it, because this thing was down her spine. She sat there a couple of times, I was sitting across from her, and she was about as far away from me as the cabinet there, and she was looking at me. She had a bunch of kids behind her and they were all petting her hair. She's gone. Doing her best to smile, but I can tell that is so. I was so proud of her because she did. And then so like through that whole day, the kids that when they could, they would touch their hair. And it was just amazing. They just loved the idea of this soft, long hair. And Beth got her, they touched Beth's hair a lot. And then one of the highlights was we brought toys, balloons and soccer balls. It was at the first school. You see us sitting there with little kids on our laps. They got the balls out and just picked them out and threw them, and just took off. So excited because I saw with the ball, some of the kids were playing with it, was just a bag of a bundle of rags, and they had wrapped it with some rope, some string and stuff like that. And I saw the ball. I talked to the kid about it. I had tons of year for a treat because we brought real soccer balls, and they were so good. I was a Sea Joker series guy, what two kids on his knees, and so here's what they would do: is they would come in and they would give you these garlands. They would give you something to put around your neck, okay? And they'd honor you as soon as you got out. They would honor you like that, and then a couple of the kids would grab your hand and they were your escorts for the day, and they would take you from one place to another where we were sitting down to see their programs, where we went to the water well, stuff like that. So we had escorts at pretty much every school. This is one of the kitchens at one of the schools. That's what they're feeding hundreds or maybe thousands of kids with. So that they're working in these dark, smelly, smoky kitchens to feed the kids.
What did they think of Joker with his tattoos and stuff?
He was a lot of them weren't so sure.
Yes, that's
Okay, but I think I've got a video in there of him sharing about his tattoos because the kids were just ask,
Yeah.
are they real? They were trying to rub them off.
That's all.
It's a fair question. And so he was very, very open about it. At one point he shared, this is at the deaf school. And they were making balloons, and again, Ed is a balloon artist.
Balloon master.
And he can make just about anything out of a balloon, but he taught Laura and Maddie, one of the other girls, and my daughter Deborah, to how to make the balloons, and so they would fill the balloons up. And then so sometimes they had other people just filling balloons up, and then those three were just tying the things. Mostly dogs and mice, but Ed was doing things, putting them around their heads and that kind of stuff. So the kids were just really super excited about these balloons. It just was pretty amazing. There's an escort. Sarah hands up there. She's holding the hand of whoever took this picture. And the escort, and then here's Aaron with my escorts and I went to school, and then Joker with his stuff to take the picture. They get your hand, and if you would leave it there, they would hold it and take you around everywhere you need to go. And to them, it was an honor to be able to do it. The first place we went was the first graders who came up, and they were so cute. And that's why when we sat down, they had chairs for us there, but there weren't enough chairs for all the kids and stuff. So we just pulled the kids up in our laps, watched the program with these first graders in our laps, because this is the first place, because that's the first necklace that I got. So anyhow, here's the thing. They have learned, and I think part of it's their culture, and part of it's just the teaching they get in their schools about Christianity, because the schools there aren't really public schools, they're all private schools pretty much, that they have to pay to go to, and so you can't talk about politics, but you can talk all you want about God. And so they teach them the Bible, they teach them things, and so they had a really high sense of honor for the Mizungos that were coming. a lot of preparation for it. They had, a bunch of, poems and dances and songs and stuff that they had worked on, practice on, had written, some of them to be a part of this. Ed took his hat off, and after the girls were getting their head petted and everything, Ed took his hat off and they just loved it. I think some of them were coming up and just kind of touching it, so he took his hair off, and at one time he took his hat off and he went down like this, and they just lit up. It was just crazy. And then whenever he wanted, when he got too much for anything, he'd take his teeth out and they'd run away. He did scare. The first time he popped his teeth out, just his lower plate popped it out. They went, what? You know, and he did it again, and they bolted. It was just like, Ed was a rock star. This is, they asked him about his tattoos.
Oh, okay, so. Not caring about what people think about me. Why this is that. You care too much about what people.
But someone came up and told him this is going to tell the story that, hey, we're getting ready to leave. We need to wrap it up. And so he gave a very short version. Somebody caught it on video. And I talked to Joker later about it. We had a chance to really have a good talk about it. And that's really what it is. I don't care what people think. I do it for me and before God. And so anyhow, it's just, so that was him, because the kids, they asked, you know, what's with the tattoos? And he said, it's a long story, he's trying to get in, and someone came and said, hey, we got to get going here. We got another school to go to, whatever. So he did a very short thing there, but it was, they were certainly interested in this guy with all the tattoos who had the same Christ in his eyes as the other believers that they knew. It was neat. Here's one of the wells. This is actually Larry Hubner. This guy back here. Larry has been, he's been to Kenya, I think, as many times as Beth has. Larry was at the same church where Beth got saved, where I met her and Bill, and so he's known the family for a long time. So he sponsored a run into the school. This is Ambrosia, who she actually lived with Pastor Doug for a while. Some of you have been around long enough to know her story. This is her daughter, Maddie. And some of the places she went to a couple of high schools, and Maddie was like, she was, because they found out she was only 14. She would be in high school with us, and you know, she's our age. She's traveling the world, but she just was a hero to some of them. So anyhow, so we tried to get group pictures in front of all the wells. But some of them worked. You guys know Rick?
Well, so they got to keep off the 2 hands. I think Rick did his best. You know, Rick.
May or may not know that that's part of his skill set. He is very skilled and very wise, but seeing him dance was like, okay, these things. This is at another school. I think this is the school that's at the prison because of where the trees are and stuff. There's a big prison outside of town. And there's a school on the grounds. So the prison's got this huge grounds, and the school then has this ground, this area in the prison grounds. And so that also means that they've got like 10 acres and stuff, so they can plant stuff and that kind of stuff. We put a well that was service both the prison and the school. So there was a well there. And this is I think we're getting ready to leave, and kids wanted pictures for this. So Deborah took some. You see Laura's got her hair down, and Deborah has hers on. So because he had enough of the feeling the hair stuff, but Laura just kind of rolled with it. So yeah, so this is Suzuki. So we're there about the second. Have you heard about Suzuki? We heard it. We're there about the second or third day, and we're having breakfast. And this girl pops in, walks into our breakfast tent and says, "Oh, I heard you speaking American the other night." Well, it turns out when we first drove into the area, into the compound of the hotel, if you look at one of the videos there, she's actually looking over the wall. She lives next door to the hotel. She is a Japanese school teacher. She is volunteering to teach at the school that was across the street from the hotel. And so she was living right there. She heard our voices. She saw the big, when we got there, they had a parade. I couldn't believe it. We were driving this, got really congested. And I've got a video of it. I couldn't find it, but our driver stopped. The other driver was going this way. We're on this really tight with all sorts of people around. And we drove by. This band is just playing music. They're all dressed in white. They're playing music in the street. And the other van is parked and stopped right next to them. And our driver, they talk in Swahili between, so I don't know what they did. They pulled up and did something, and one of the policemen helped them get turned around, pulled in behind them, and then the truck they had all of our luggage. This is when we first arrived. We haven't got to the hotel yet. They were driving, they had a parade for the Mzungus from wherever they picked us up at that marketplace, all the way to the hotel, a couple miles. And this band is out front playing, and people are watching. So she heard all that, because then we pulled into the compound. There were a whole bunch of people there, and it was just a party at the compound for probably another hour or so. And she was heading there, kind of watched it over. So she came over the next day or two in the morning and got talking to us. And so she's from Japan. She's a teacher. And Beth said, and he kind of said, here's what we're doing. Why don't you come with us? And she did. The next day, she would work with us all day, and she did. The next day, she was actually there when we gave Matakuma her house, and she had to get a piki from there to get back to work, because she had a class to teach at noon or something like that. But she was a Japanese school teacher, and she just became part of the family. She rode in the same van with I and my daughters that whole day, and some other people, and we just connected. So my daughters are still communicating with her.
Is she fluent in Swahili too? Is she the one?
Yeah, she was good in Swahili. She spoke actually pretty good English. So anyhow, the Japanese government has a program where they will send volunteers to third world countries to she volunteered to go to Kenya and teach school for 2 years. So she was 6 months into it. So if we go back next year, she'll still be. So anyhow, but yeah, Suzuki was a sweetheart. This is one of the spreads that we had to eat. They had, I think the weirdest thing that we saw was that they had a chicken stew that they fixed a lot, but in a couple of places, the head and the feet were also in the stew. None of us ate those, so I'm sure somebody ate them after we were done, but they were, there a couple people taking pictures of this. They do a lot of fried potatoes. They have a dish there called ugali that is a corn. It's a maize meal, cornmeal dish that they bake it into or cook it into a ball, or I think what they do is they cook it in a pot and just turn it over out of the pot. But it's usually in a ball shape like that, and that's their main staple. And so you take a slice of that, put it on your plate, and you pinch some of that, and you pinch some of the greens or some of the meat or whatever. And we were at the first night there, we had some greens that were just, I'm not a huge fan of cooked greens and stuff like spinach. I'd rather eat it raw than cook it. But they had these greens and it was just amazing. And found out it was actually pumpkin greens. It's like, oh, we're gonna do that again. So anyhow, but they seasoned stuff really, really nicely flavored, not super hot. Couple things that were hot here and there, but mostly just a nice amount with just a lot of flavor. Because the quality of the meat's not that great, and so I think a lot of it's you get most as much flavor as we can out of it. But that was one of the spreads in somebody's house, and this may have been Baba's house, Julius's house. We had a couple meals there. One of our first meals there, and our last night was at his house. So you get onto it, they do road construction, and they do a detour, and they take you off on another road, and you go all the way around over here. Not there. There they have what they call diversions. And the diversion is, we've cleared off the side of the road, you can drive along there. So they're working on this actually really nicely blacktop road here, and so doing some work. We didn't see any work being done. But this diversion was here. Now this is the second day after that day on Sunday. This is Monday. After that day, Sunday when it rained all day. You talk about it drying up?
No,
Not happening.
because they're really
Not
stuck.
happening. Well, funny you ask that question.
Oh, man.
This was actually the easiest to get out. That was one of the easier ones, because we basically, because you see I was kind of down in the rut here. So we got down to the rut. So what we did is we basically got 4 or 5 guys. This is toward the end of it. He's getting out. We had 4 or 5 guys just along the truck, and we just tilted it up so that the traction would be on this side where it was higher, and he was able to drive on out of it. But that was the easiest time getting out. Some of the others, I think here we are walking up to a place. This is the road that they were doing the construction on, but on either side, you have these mud tracks, and they were just crazy to drive in. So we got stuck, I think, a total of 3 different times. One time on this road, both of our vans got stuck. About 100 yards apart. So we're basically walking from our van up to the other van. Yeah, it was both vans got stuck. We had to get them both out.
Welcoming us. We love you guys so much. The Lord really put.
This is a school that they visited on Tuesday. While I was doing the mayor's conference. Just visited this school. And there were some kids who were just kind of lying in a room over there, and then the school was kind of in a rough area. And basically what happened is these kids hadn't eaten for 3 days. And so that night, they said, we're doing something about that. And they went out and bought a bunch of food, and they brought it back, probably a month's worth of food, brought it back for them to feed this school. We got another video back from Lynette, one of the Baba's Julius's assistants. She sent a video yesterday and the day before. The kids actually just have been feeding them from that food. But bags of rice, bags of beans, bags of cornmeal. And this is Ambrosia. She's just explaining why they come back after being there, dedicating well, all that kind of stuff. And then they just showed up. They didn't tell them they were coming. We just came back.
On our hearts to provide for you guys some food. So we wanted to bless you guys with this today. You guys really touched our hearts the other day, and we just want to take time to just bless you guys. And just know that this isn't us. It isn't the Muzungus. It is Jesus. Jesus is the provider. It is all Jesus. And we're going to do give me a challenge.
So there they are. They pulled up, and the kids all came out, and they gave them this food that was going to feed them for a month. Some of them hadn't eaten for days, and it was just when they heard that, we can't. We're not going to leave without doing something about that. So they went back the next day or the day after. Went back, So while they're doing that, I'm doing mayor's conference. This is one of this is actually Julius's youngest son, Oscar. He's the manager or the supervisor, whatever you call him, of the orphanage. He oversees the orphanage. Yeah, he was one of my first interpreters. And so it was fun just working with him.
Side to side.
You see when you're taking notes and stuff, and they were very
specific.
So this may have been in response to a question. They had a lot of questions. I sent them the book a little over a month ahead of time, so someone reading. And I told Julius, I said, if they have questions about something they're reading the book, they can just send it. So he sent me a week later, like 5 questions and stuff. And it took me a couple of days to type out the answers and everything, send it back to them. Then they sent me some other questions after that, and I just, so I'm not gonna have time to respond to these, I'll bring the answers with me. Well, some of the questions were fit right in with the teaching. And so I would read their question and answer their question, and would, you know, use it as a segue right into the teaching. So we got all their questions answered. But then I tend to like, let's do question and answer kind of stuff. You guys have seen me do that enough. And so had some time to just open up for questions. And so they had a lot of really good questions. They had questions about the transgender movement, you know, they had questions about homosexuality, they had questions about arranged marriages, they had questions about and then apparently there's some TV creatures that they have seen who did some things. They're saying, is that okay? I'm going, I've never seen it, you know, and so I had to give them an answer and the God was good, and I was able to answer some of their questions, even though I didn't know the whole thing. But you know, they would ask the questions sometimes in English that I could partially understand, and sometimes in Swahili, and so the interpreter would have to. And so one time the interpreter was trying to get the question interpreted for me. And so he's a pastor, and there's like 4 or 5 other pastors, you know, kind of the lead pastors who were there, and they all could interpret. They rotated through interpreting for me, and they get to a spot because I used word like presupposition for Oscar. One of the first sessions, and as soon as I said it, I thought that's not going to translate. Yeah. And he looked at me, and I said it again. I said, and so I said I said it a different way, and he was able to translate that. But so there were some words that just don't translate cleanly, and so. You know, so they get stumped sometimes. They look around at the other guys who could interpret, and eventually one of them would say, here's how you say that. So then you interpret it. So working with an interpreter was a very interesting experience. And it helps if you really know what you wanna say, because then as they're talking, you know what your next, you can finish your sentence or finish your thought, so you kind of know where you're going. And that's why I was with the marriage council went a lot better, because I knew a lot more what I was going to say there than I did when the Catholic Crusade. So it went really well. They were very eager, very learning. Now I also gave to them, because when I did this, my Families from the Beginning conference before, I would print out a booklet that they could take and fill in blank. And so I did that here for them, and I gave them a booklet that all of these blanks that would be filled in. But then knowing the way that I teach, I wasn't going to follow that exactly, and that in the interpretation the words would get changed. Where they had blackboards painted on the back of the back wall of the church, and so I filled this one up with all the answers during one of the breaks. And besides more of that same. So anyhow, there's on that blackboard I had written on it. So I came back from wrote it at the beginning of the break. I wrote it out. It was a tea break. They take tea about 11 or something like that, and then lunch is like at 1. And so they all left, and I went. So I just wrote down all the answers on the blackboard. And I came back after going to tea, and probably 20 or 30 of them had taken the chairs, turned around, sat in front of that, and were writing all the notes, making sure they got all of the answers, all the blanks filled out correctly, because these are leaders who are going to go back and teach others.
How long did that go on? Is that like an all-day thing?
This was all day on Tuesday from 9:30 to 4 or something like that.
And you were doing that?
And I was doing that. And then Pastor Corey was supposed to do Wednesday from 9:30 to 1, and then Rick was going to do the afternoon session. Well, Pastor Corey wasn't there. So what it enabled me to do is I was able to expand a little deeper into some of the information for the marriage conference and family conference. And then I had another teaching that I did that was more geared toward pastors and teaching and that kind of stuff that I did again. So, but there was a break in there when I finished everything with the marriage conference. We took a break, and I went back and wrote stuff on the board. And when I came back from going and getting tea, they were there with their notebooks and filling out all of the blanks and all of this stuff there. So they were very eager learners. So that was the marriage conference. We went back then the next day, this would have been Thursday, went back to the orphanage. This church is at the orphanage. Went back to the orphanage and Beth spoke to the widows. They had 100 widows there. And the problem with one of the things, and they found this with Kakamega, when you see the documentary, you'll hear about it. She had every intention of killing her children, poisoning her children, and then killing herself because she couldn't provide for them. And she didn't want them to die of starvation. And Julius, she hadn't been to church or something like that, you know, he missed her. So he went to her house the day she was going to do that. And he took the poison out of her hands. You know, that's one of the things that Julius wanted Beth to tell the widows. Don't kill your children. Don't kill yourself. God can make a way. And so very touching. So anyhow, so she met with the widows.
And they danced. And they sang. There's Rick dancing with one of them. I'm dancing with Beth is dancing. Eventually, I think the whole team goes up there dancing with so my daughters and they're working.
So this is after Beth had spoken to him. And we were getting ready to give them this. These are bags of food. It would probably feed them. Some of the staples in there will get them through a week with their families. Some of them will get them through a month. So there's a bottle of oil in there. There's cornmeal. There's rice. There's beans. There was something else. So they have these bags of food made up, and so there's 100 of them here. So then we gave it to them. This is them all out in front, because then they came up and prayed for, and the team prayed for them, and then they got their food and so that's just a panoramic picture across the front of the church from the stage that I took just to get a shot of what it was like. They're just really excited to have food for their families. Some of these widows in here have been widows for a long time, they're older. These two are widows, and some of them are young ladies who've lost their husbands and have kids and are trying to provide for them. This is the stuff that you guys did. Those are we who gave. This is. I think I told you the story. I had the money for you guys gave for the shipping of the books, and then DHL said they would ship the books in no cost. And so that money I gave to Beth right after Baba had asked her, said, I want you to talk to the widows. I'm going to bring 100 widows. I want you to speak to them. And she said, I want to give them 100 shillings each. I think it was, or 1,000 shillings each. I'm going to give them each 1,000 shillings. And then she got done talking to him. She goes, I don't know how much that is. Because you can calculate it, and it was $700 and something. And you guys had given me that I turned over to her $700 and something. So these are the widows that you guys blessed. And it's for some of them, for a lot of them, it was just life changing. To have a gift of abundance like that, to have Beth speak to them as a widow and explain to them that God can give them joy through all this. And so it was really amazing. But I wanted you guys to see. I wanted you to see what they got from their joy. So that's the way. And then we fed them too. So this is actually after the service, someone got their bags looking there. We fed. This is like an outdoor eating area that the orphanage uses. And this is the administration building and some of the dorms and that kind of stuff. The church building is up off to the right here. But this is just we were feeding them, and so I made sure I got video that was also some of your guys'.
He did. I have to go, but I wanna read an email from Bill Santon.
About his mom?
Yeah, did you tell him?
Danny read it to us.
Okay, all right, but I gotta
He only
go.
knows mom.
It was really great, thanks.
All right,
I'm gonna have to as well.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna head out at the same time, Danny, it's just.
You guys have a great week.
See you next week. Thank you.
So,
Most.
yeah, most tonight. Don't forget most is the night. You leaving too, Jim?
Yep.
Yeah. So the last night there, we did a foot washing for, we didn't. Larry Dinkins had it on his heart that he wanted to be kind of connected with because of the problems with his visa. He had got connected over email and phone calls with Julius, and he just really felt the unction to do a foot washing for Julius. And Julius is very, very stoic. And he was just weeping. It was a very, very emotional, very spiritual time. It was just a blessing. But that Larry and he, after they were done, Larry and he just clung to each other and cried for probably 5 minutes. One of the side trips, remember the side trip, we were actually doing Bill's evangelism and carrying those bags. Okay, this is the funny part. They had those bags before they go in, they give them like 10 pounds of stuff. They had these bags, so they're like 25, 30 pounds. We didn't realize it. We're carrying 2 or 3 of them through the summer, up or through the heat, up into the hills and that kind of stuff. And they eventually figured out when we got to this point and we dropped all the bags by the side of the road and walked up to this back here. Basically, these Zungos can't handle this. And when we came back down, all the bags were gone. We could come up with the vehicles and taken them so they could distribute them without us having to do all the. And so we went back to walked back to where our vans were, got there, and a lady had drove up on a Piki. She had rented Piki to come and have us pray for her because she had just found out she had stage 2 cancer, liver cancer. And so she came specifically so that we could pour an olive oil and pray for her. But this was called the Big Rock, and it was just one of the views from the Big Rock. It was a nice place to just kind of sit and relax after all that. So I think we've seen this one already. Oh, so then the last couple days we're on a safari. Animal pictures, of course. Saw elephants, saw cheetah, more elephants.
that's neat.
Saw giraffes.
They know where to find them, don't they?
So this, well, yeah, they knew where to find your gun and his trucks that these guys just. This is one of Joker's pictures. He had the best of everybody. He had the best camera phone there. He had bought it kind of specifically to be able to take it. He just was amazing. He has some of the best shots the whole week was the Joker took. So we saw a video of giraffes. They were just standing. At one point, the giraffes looked like they were starting to walk and they were going to cross the road, but enough vehicles stopped that they just stopped to watch the people watch them. So there's some young ones and some small ones that I just heard had 8 or 10 giraffes in it. It was just part of it. We saw another herd later that had almost 20. So giraffes, these are part of that same herd. This is a wildebeest. Was a wildebeest. So these storks, the guide is telling us these guys don't have the claws. They have to take the straps out. So these guys. So the rufous grippers, white. This is rufous griffin. These are white back plus vultures. Seem to flying like this. So anyhow, they were having a feast, and we got the chance to actually get a good close look at these birds.
But I'm a stork, I'm not sure I wanna go in that crowd.
Yeah, well, you can see they're kind of hanging around the outside and they just wait for straps to fall. So anyhow, that was also on the safari. The life and the death of it. Hippos were in the river, and then on some rocks that were out in the river. Hippos, and this was just a view of the. I think my daughter took this. These are impalas, I believe. King Island Palace. But look at the scenery. It was just a beautiful, she got one of the clearest shots of scenery. Out there, it's just the land is arid and dry and beautiful. Just some really neat scenery mounts. This is the kind of truck we were in. So this is one that all the kids were in. Okay, the way we just ended up splitting up in a way between the two trucks. That all of the kids were in this. My girls, Ryan he's like 25-year-old father, businessman. He's got a business in a landscaping business or something in Lawrenceburg. The youth pastor's in this group. And Brosia was there with her daughter Maddie, so she's got the 14-year-old, she's the youngest. And then the parents of the group and the older people and the whole older people in the group were Joker and Tanya. But they had a really good time. So that was one of the trucks, and we were in another one that was very similar. I think this picture was taken. Where might have been taken where the lines were. So they saw lines. So all of the guides from the different companies, they're all on a shortwave, two-way radio thing. And it's always squawking and stuff like that. So if something is sighted, the word gets out, and then all the trucks head that direction. And so when the cheetah was sighted, it was like they were working out and drove all over the place trying to get to this place where the cheetah was. These guys knew all the main roads and all the side roads and all the little paths like the back of their hand. Driver, one guy, our driver, had been doing it for like 15 years.
Almost looks fake, man. It looks like he went to the zoo and took the pictures.
This one, yeah,
Or the other one of the cheetah.
yeah. The cheetah, the picture of the cheetah was so clear. That was Joker's. This was my picture. I have a telescope telephoto lens I can put on my phone. And so we had an old phone that we were taking. So this is just taken with that.
You weren't that close.
I'm probably 50 feet away or something like that. So we'll get that shot. So anyway, halfway through the safari, we stopped for lunch underneath the tree. They just threw blankets out there. They had lunches, box lunches from the lodge, and these crates and stuff. And after we got the lunches, I just turned around and sat on them. But that was the lunch break. Go up to a place, a checkpoint, and then going into the area, and these Maasai vendors are there. And they come up to the window and they want to sell you stuff and that kind of stuff. And their prices were pretty good. Rick found out he could get something that you were going to pay up 2,000 or 3,000 shillings for, and they spent 1,000 shillings for this whole collection of things. So we bought it, and that got them all going. Everybody wanted to sell something. And so anyhow, so they were there. This was outside the lodge. A couple of them had just set up their stuff in the yard there, and this is the kind of stuff that they had. And bowls, jewelry, that kind of stuff. All these painted giraffe pieces, and that. After seeing enough of this stuff, I realized, okay, everything's made somewhere. They're not making this stuff. We actually went to a Maasai village on the last day on the way out, and I asked them outright, where do you make this stuff? Beadwork stuff. They said, we make it here in the village. And I said, inside the village here. It's a circle of huts, and the huts are like dark. There's not very much light in them at all. So they had been doing it in the yard. There's no evidence of them making anything. It's like that. Yeah. And they talked to one of the guys, and he's a Christian and all this kind of stuff. And Beth asked him the same thing. He said, "Oh, yeah, we make it here in the village." And I said, "You live a Christian?" I said, one of the other people, he's also a businessman. Yeah. They all gave you the same answer. They all gave you the same, it was all still. But we did still get some nice souvenirs. Yes, for the grandkids and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, so here they are. This is the van I was in. They were in the back. They were at the back windows there too, doing it. So that's just part of the culture there, part of what you're dealing with. This alligator, not a really good picture of it. He's actually eating a dead wildebeest. The wildebeest that crossed the river during a flood a couple days before it had a lot of rain. They had washed a bunch of them down. So in a lot of places there were just drowned wildebeest there. And this alligator, I think probably 15 feet long, was eating a wildebeest there. He's not an alligator, a crocodile. He's a Nile crocodile. And there's a bunch up there in this area that were enjoying the wildebeest feast. So those. And here's our tractor. Someone, it was just cut across wood. They get your nose in front of you and they have the right of way. And it's just. The big piece, this little thing here, that's took the, again, it's a 3-wheel vehicle. So here, so it's 3 wheels, one in the front, 2 in the back, 1 in the front. They're usually covered, and so they can haul people. They can haul. You saw a couple of them loaded down with materials they were hauling and that kind of stuff. But that's the slowest moving vehicle. They can't top out over probably 20 miles, 25 miles an hour. They're always the slowest vehicle on the roads. So you go around them or to the left of them or to the right of them, wherever you can find space. And that was the thing, just wherever you can find space, you go through. So that was that. I think we're the wilderness crossing. Crossing the road. A lot of them. All the way up to the horizon.
No, these are not from the migration. So
So you hear the radio back. So Tanzania is off the distance here. We actually went to the border. Please tell us that they're migrating. We just sat there for a while, let them cross before we could go. Down the other side up here, zebras travel with them. So the zebras in the wilderness are almost always the go of migration. And so the zebras will cross too. Unless you get a break and you move forward, they'll work around you. But they have to be careful not to limit. And my daughter Deborah was taking a lot of pictures, and she realized she had some weird settings, and she had taken a lot of pictures in black and white. And this one of the zebras was just pretty cool. So I said, and she was really upset, and I said, honestly, I don't know, look at some of these, and you get some really great pictures in black and white of these animals. So the zebras just popped out of it. So that's it. I think that's the last one. Well, and that is just a smattering of the stuff that's like 40 or 50 pictures that I put together. They put together a traffic circle or a photo circle. There's a photo circle app. You can just sign people up and everybody contribute to it. So there is in here 1,900 pictures that people took that have been adding to it from the group. And so I just pulled a few. There's a whole bunch of pictures here. The trip. So that was at another one of the schools. To answer that, there's just a lot of really good pictures. It took a lot, takes a long time to get through that. So anyhow, that was it. So at least next September, there will be a trip going back unless something happens. I mean, they're all pretty much, that's already pretty much decided she's gonna go back. Needs to go back. She wants to go back for a longer period, but she's probably gonna wait till you need to take a team. And just after the team gets there, you can just stay after the team. Yeah. Leaves. 6 weeks till the fundraiser. Yeah, and 6 weeks to the fundraiser. Do not forget that. That's November 4th. You need to come to that because they will have the trailer for the documentary there, and we're going to be with a lot more stories of stuff that happened. Tonight, you guys, maybe if you've seen this, 6:30. Most is going to be here. They're doing their first Welcome to the War conference. And it is going to be pretty amazing. There's going to be the prototype for things they're going to do across the country. And so they will be filming stuff to be able to get trailers for it. And so that's tonight, 6:30 be here. Doors open at 6:15, I think. That's what I heard. So. That's most. Make sure you're there. You can be there, be there.
Did you have to register for that?
They have, it's free, so they have a registration, you've all got an email, it's got a link in it, you can register. But the way my daughter,
You can get to it on the planning center.
yeah, planning center.
So you can still go, yeah, right.
The way my daughter put it was, it's free, you don't have to register, just be there.
Yeah.
But I registered just so it has some sort of a number. Anyway. That's it. We'll get into Colossians next week with Bill. I'm gonna be out of town again, I have a book event. For my, story farm book up in the county where it was written about, so. Going for that, and I got an email, I need to follow up on it, one of the radio stations there contacted me, yesterday about doing an interview, so I got an interview with them. Probably do one on telephone with them, so.
I think I speak for everybody, thanks for going,
Yeah.
being, you know, our eyes and hands of just being able to share.
I told my wife before I went,